I'm here actually continuing this live presentation on the APEX Keynote Summit. This is starting with slide 16. See the first video for the first part. Anyway, one of the things in slide 16 of my presentation, there's 8 brand monitoring challenges for ultraviolet data. And this is similar to the webinar I gave with Venue Labs about a month ago. Those briefly are from 1 to 8 signal to noise ratio, meaning basically that in social data and a lot of our data, it is really very difficult to isolate what's really important from what's not important. And that's what algorithms are supposed to be able to do, and heuristics are supposed to be able to do. But a lot of times, to have the right ones, you need to know what you're looking for. And a lot of times, the data needs to be structured, so it's not. So there's a high data, there's a high amount of noise in the data that we get. Now, also, it's not scalable. it's too manual to do a lot of the reporting of this social data. The reason for that is because it's unstructured. And there's been reports that said that a lot of the data, especially social data, is entirely unstructured, or 90% unstructured, meaning that a lot of times you have to figure out what what the subject of it is, what the topic, what it's actually saying, who's saying it, what the real sentiment is. And that's somewhat subjective. So in a lot of cases, and you need to have people sitting there trying to figure it out, and if you write algorithms to try to do it, the current attempts haven't been quite satisfactory, and I don't find anybody that really is overall that satisfied with the results of algorithmic interpretations of social data. But that's not the only data, but that's the main one that has the structured problem. Insightful versus actionable. You know, there's a lot of interesting things of an exploratory nature that you can get out of social data, but, caveat, but, a lot of it isn't really particularly actionable. And that's probably a result of not really being clear about what you're looking for in the data, and you're structuring it in a way almost as in a model, in the sense of the model, really building out and organizing the information in a way where you can then operate on it with an algorithm. So as a result, you have people sitting there and they're spending all the time. That's not that productive in a lot of cases. It's useful when you're trying to find information that ordinarily wouldn't be able to access any other way. But difficult to see how that could actually, lend the scaling problem is the problem of actually getting the signal. Then there's poor geography and geolocation. As more of us are on our mobile phones all the time, we come up with the reality that where we are is very important to what we're saying. And knowing that, again, there's privacy issues about that, but knowing where we are can help when we say something, can actually help a lot to provide the context and the meaning behind what we're saying. And that data can be collected and it already is, to some extent. And then, but the platforms often can't get it. So there's the 5th point really follows the 4th one, in that there's a local data gap or blind spot. We'll cover that in one of the slides following. In other words, people are in a place and making a statement about it. They like the coffee, they don't like the coffee, the service is good, the service is not good, but the location isn't really monitored. So you can't really tell it's about the brand, and therefore you can't do anything about it. And it doesn't mean that much, because you don't know what it's about. You don't know who it's referring to. So the platforms often, as well, have a problem in that they can't chop and dice data the way they're going to. And then the correspondence between online chatter and offline word of mouth is a thing that I've actually explored quite a bit in a couple of seminars with Symphonic. They discovered that they're a consultancy in the Bay Area in California that basically happened upon a study at the Walton School in Philadelphia that basically said that when you took two industries like automotive versus cosmetic, and you listened and compared the online chatter versus the offline chatter. In automotive, there's a lot of correspondence, but not at all in cosmetics. So if you were Ford, you could actually get a lot out of listening on social media and trying to decide what the voice of the customer was. But if you were proactive, not so much. And if you're anything else, we don't know. So just the whole point of doing it might be questionable. There needs to be more research, obviously. And then also there's no real standards. So there are a lot of problems in this space and so slide 16 is an important one in this presentation, I would say. So examples of some of this type of data we're not capturing. I work with a platform called InfiniGraph. They're one of the platforms that very much involved with, they are able to collect the activity of fans and followers of brands and look where else they're doing it. I call their actions behavioral, in that the information they uncover about a brand and its followers and fans is based on their actual activity and where else they go on Facebook and Twitter, and isn't so much based on keywords. And so here's an interesting roll-up that I created with InfiniGraph. A visualization perhaps that would have been better would be a more atomic one. But my point being that when we took the affinities of the various brands around Burberry, who's a very popular fashion brand, we found that museums played a big role. But a lot of the fans really also liked going to the Museum of Modern Art, the Metropolitan Museum, and the Smithsonian Museum. A very interesting feature. You could build a whole brand map around that, about the way people are interacting with the brand in an almost cosmic sense. That would be different than perhaps the brand managers would understand it as they see themselves. And so that could be very interesting in terms of refining the way the brand sees itself from the way that its fans see them. And that, in turn, is really until the right capabilities and platform, ultraviolet. And so you go much deeper with it. Also, as I referred to earlier, this local data gap that's happening between people checking into a location, making a statement about a location, but the monitoring platforms such as Radiant 6 and Systemos maybe not capturing that it's there. And so you can see the local data gap here is considerable in Starbucks. It was found in an August 2011 study to be close to 68%. In Apple, there were 76% blind spot. People are saying something. Again, I don't have access to the exact study, but in McDonald's, there was 62%, meaning that, almost 3/4 of the time, 2/3 of the time, I mean, when someone comes into a McDonald's and says something about it, you don't know they're really referring to McDonald's because it's not being captured. So Venue Labs does capture it, so it captures that ultraviolet data. And we talked about here an example. The person was at Starbucks, they checked in Foursquare, and they said they mess up a lot, but the monitoring platform didn't capture it. Foursquare, there was information, there was meta information, ultraviolet wasn't captured. But we could see it's not captured and do something about it. Recorded Features, another platform that does temporal analysis. It's very interesting. This is slide 20 of my presentation. It works with a consolidation into it, a bunch of database structures that will map potential occurrences that might happen based on what people are saying are going to happen. You can see we've looked at in slide 21 mobile tablets and what might be happening in this year. Over 75% of businesses, for example, will be deploying tablets by 2013. Certainly a lot of disruption in the market as well. And now if we look at another type of data that is often ultraviolet, it's financial data that can be overlaid into the social stream. There's a company called Wealth Engine that integrates with Salesforce. It's often used by various nonprofits and hospitals to mine a customer data list. I think they've got several million records that are very detailed in terms of people's giving intensity and so on. And there are times that people have even been in a hospital and gotten preferential treatment because of these kinds of things. Not particularly talked about a lot, but the reality is that with a Radian 6 acquisition by Salesforce, it's clear that whether it's been done or not, there's certainly the potential pieces are there to take this violet data and overlay it and get something like this. Salesforce plus Wealth Engine plus Radian 6 superimposed over social screen. Clearly, if you were in a casino and you were seeing people playing Williams Water Rings and tweeting to it and sharing with their friends, and you were at the casino watching that, and you saw that you kind of knew what they bet and you knew what they could bet, you might be sending someone over to distract them and keep them there longer. There are all kinds of potentials for this information, and ways it can be used that are positive and negative. And then finally, we'll go to the next slide and finish up the presentation in the next video.